There are moments in sports that cut through every argument, every political debate, and every institutional controversy to remind you why any of it matters in the first place. What happened in Johannesburg at the LIV Golf South Africa event was exactly that kind of moment. It had nothing to do with tour wars, Saudi money, or the ongoing battle over professional golf's future. It was about two men standing on their home soil in front of thousands of their own people, feeling something so overwhelming they could barely hold themselves together before hitting their first shots of the day. Louis Hodggaard and Charles Schwartzel are the captains of the Southern Aces team, and both are South African-born major champions who have competed on the biggest stages the sport has to offer. When they walked to the first tee at Houghton Golf Club on Thursday morning, neither was prepared for what greeted them. The noise from the crowd was deafening. The energy was unlike anything a standard professional golf event generates. And the weight of what it meant, world-class professional golf returning to South Africa with genuine star power, hit both men at the same moment. They looked at each other and realized they were both fighting back tears before a single shot had been struck. Schwartzel described it in the post-round press conference with the kind of honesty that only comes from being genuinely moved. He said he had played many tournaments over a long career, but walking up to that tee and absorbing the noise was something that only happens a handful of times in a lifetime of competing. He felt it physically. His hair stood up, a sensation ran through his body, and he found himself tearing up while trying to mentally prepare to hit a tee shot. For a man who has won a Masters title and played in countless pressure situations, that level of emotion says everything about what the moment actually meant. Hodggaard described the same experience from his side. He looked over at Schwartzel, felt the pride rising, and quietly put his sunglasses on because he did not want to completely break down in front of the crowd. Then Schwartzel told him he was going through the exact same thing. Two major champions, sunglasses on, tears forming, standing in front of a home crowd that had waited years for a moment like this. That image alone is something that does not come along often in professional golf. What makes Schwartzel's performance even more remarkable is the physical state he was actually in that day. His back injury was so severe heading into the event that he called Hodggaard the night before and told him he was genuinely considering withdrawing. He did not want to let the team down by competing at less than full capacity. Hodggaard talked him into at least trying, reminding him they had come a long way together and that he deserved to be out there. To prepare for the round, Schwartzel arrived at the course 4 hours before his tee time, double his usual routine, and went through an extensive treatment process, including jacuzzi therapy, dry needling, and pain management medication just to make it to the first tee physically capable of swinging a club. He was not sure he would get through the day, and then he said something that stays with you. He said he genuinely did not know if he could have finished the round without the energy from the crowd carrying him through. That is not a diplomatic thank you to fans. That is a professional athlete acknowledging that crowd support became a tangible physical factor that helped him manage real pain in real time. That almost never happens in golf, where the atmosphere is typically quieter, more reserved, and rarely reaches the kind of intensity that actually changes what a player is capable of doing on a given day. But in Johannesburg, the atmosphere was something different entirely. Despite the injury, despite nearly withdrawing, despite crying on the first tee, Schwartzel outshot Hodggaard by 3 strokes that day. He went out there compromised in almost every way a player can be and still performed at a high level. Hodggaard laughed afterward and said he would be copying Schwartzel's entire pre-round routine the next morning given how well it had worked. The Southern Aces team as a whole fed off the crowd and each other, taking the first-round lead with all 4 players contributing. Hodggaard described watching Dean Burmester hitting enormous drives behind him, seeing Schwartzel making putts in front of him, and checking the leaderboard to find Brandon Grace also playing well. The collective energy created a loop that kept pulling everyone upward. What this event exposed about golf's global potential is something worth sitting with beyond just the emotional story on the surface. South African fans have an extraordinary sports culture built around rugby, cricket, and soccer. National pride runs deep and expresses itself loudly and passionately when the right moments arrive. But professional golf has historically failed to tap into that energy at any meaningful level. The PGA Tour almost never visits South Africa. The DP World Tour stops there occasionally, but without the star power that creates genuine cultural events. What LIV brought to Johannesburg was something South African golf fans have not had in a very long time. Major champions who are national heroes competing on home soil in front of a crowd that felt genuine ownership over the outcome. Hojgaard had promised people in the lead-up to the event that South African fans would bring the energy and prove the country belongs on the world golf stage. That was not an empty statement. South Africa is a nation that understands what it means to rally behind its athletes. And when given the opportunity to do it for golf, the fans delivered something that multiple commentators compared to Ryder Cup atmosphere levels. For a regular season team event to generate that kind of noise and intensity is genuinely unusual, and it points towards something the sport has been missing in markets outside its traditional centers of power. The critics of LIV Golf have legitimate arguments that do not disappear because of one emotional day in Johannesburg. The questions about competitive structure, financial backing, and the league's broader impact on professional golf are real and ongoing. But those arguments also cannot erase what actually happened on that first tee. It was not staged. It was not manufactured for cameras. It was two men being overwhelmed by something they had spent their entire careers working toward without ever being sure it would arrive. That kind of moment is impossible to script and impossible to dismiss, regardless of which side of the tour debate you stand on. The challenge LIV faces now is whether Johannesburg was a repeatable formula or a perfect storm. The league has struggled to consistently generate fan energy at certain stops, particularly in the United States, where the novelty of the format has faded for some audiences. But South Africa showed what becomes possible when a league takes world-class golf to a market that is hungry for it, builds the event around local heroes, and creates a situation where the crowd has a genuine emotional stake in the outcome. That combination produced something that rivaled the best atmospheres professional golf generates anywhere in the world. What Louis Hojgaard and Charles Schwartzel felt on that first tee was not about leagues or money or politics. It was about a lifetime of dreaming that their country would one day host the kind of professional golf they grew up watching on television and then standing in the middle of it while trying not to cry. That is sport doing what it does at its very best, connecting athletes to communities in ways that feel permanent and meaningful long after the scores are posted.